which is good and works. Something that didn't work so well as another element of spectacle was something that happened at the end of a game that culminated in a park with 400 people playing, Grandmother's Footsteps, the game where you sneak up but you have to freeze when someone turns around, but with a giant puppet grandmother. And so this was great as well, but it came at the end of sort of an hour and a half game, and people could join in for the 2 minutes of that, but then they'd say, now what do I do? And basically the game was over. It was as the culmination of one of the days of the festival, and we basically had to say, come back next year. So one of the principles of getting people involved is making sure that the fun stuff that you show them, the spectacle that you publish to people's walls or you wave around in parks or whatever, is something that they can do relatively easily and relatively quickly, and not something that you have to say to them, this is fun but you don't get to do it for a month, or you have to come back next year if you really, really want to find the giant grandmother. Okay, I'll hurry. People get sick of the game, but they also get sick of novelty and don't want to sit down and have a new explanation of things. So, if we try to explain a game that takes longer than 2 to 3 minutes for people to explain, they will get bored. It's a social space. There's plenty of other things for them to do. Online, even 2 minutes is probably a bit too long, but we've got a bit of social pressure because they're there. If they try to walk away, we can be disappointed at them. But at the same time, they don't want to do the same thing over and over again, and they get bored of learning new rules just as much as they get bored of playing old ones. And one of the games that people tend to enjoy most in the sandpits is one that we've played several times, chasing each other, trying to film each other doing things game. And we've run it as spies and without a theme, and as a post-apocalypse water preservation game. And we're going to run it as sort of a day at a beach and rival journalists and other things. And people really enjoy it. And as a game designer, that's slightly frustrating. And you want to wave your fist and say, no, it's the same game. You've just searched and replaced vampires with talking cupcakes or whatever. But the fact remains that people do really like reskins of games that are done. And, perhaps it's not up to us to wave our fists and say, no, Danny, you'll have a new game and you'll like it. But at least make available and not resent the fact that we're making available slight adjustments to previous versions. Now the problem, the prettiest or most popular person wins. It's a social game. Often you can do things that help other people out, and there's a big tendency to go, not even necessarily conscious, but it's how brains work. You go, ooh, that person's pretty and nice, I'll help them out, in exchange for what bits of my brain I'm not conscious of tell me might come in the future. And it's a problem. But something that we've found that helps with that in the real world is that you make it really, really obvious how well people are doing. We've got a game called Rubble, where it's a post-apocalypse trading game. People are trying to collect cards which are hidden around the space, and also they can trade them with each other. If you give them cards, the prettiest person, if they want, can just sort of stand around looking a bit lost, saying, I don't really understand. And people will give them cards and say, it's like this, and explain. And at the end, they can go, oh gosh, I won. Whereas if you give them, for example, inflatable beach balls with a label on it, it's really, really hard for them to kick them behind them and go, ooh, I don't know what's going on, deliberately or not. If you make it clear that someone's going well, then people's competitive nature kicks in, and it kind of cuts it back a bit on the automatic help the person who looks nice tendencies. People are confused and sad, and they don't know what they're going to do or why they're supposed to do it. Adults really, really need win conditions to do fun stuff, or they need an immediate aim. Most children's playground games, if you look at them, there's not actually a winner. There's someone who's it, for example, and then whoever is it changes, and it just goes on and on and on until lunch ends. There's no real need to have a winner, and you don't have someone declared at the end necessarily. But adults are more uncomfortable with that and generally want a specific aim and to immediately have a sense of what they're supposed to be doing. So, explanations that are too long make them sad, but also getting up there and just being told to play without having an aim in mind makes them sad. So they want an immediate aim, and also really like meaningless rewards. This has been entered into before with the whole points thing, but often people get to the end of a game, and if they win, then they'll then say, do I get anything? And you say, well, I say, no, we've got some crappy plastic medals, you can have one of those if you want. And people will want the crappy plastic medal if you give it to them with enough pomp. 5 minutes later, they might say, do you want this crappy plastic medal back so that you can use it again? But they just want the moment of getting it and receiving it and having the sort of meaningless ostentation reward thing. I must be out of time now, so yes I am. And my last 2 points were slightly confusing anyway now that I look at them. So I'll
Is there any questions?
Job.
you could design a game for the sample.
Is that solely what you do behind the scenes?
Yeah, pretty much. We have the festival, we consult on other people's games, some of them sort of online and computery, some of them live. We make live events for other people, we put places stuff and things, and we have, the Circuit, which is a monthly thing. The next one is on Wednesday the 24th, that's next week at the South Bank Centre on the Spirit level. We're running from 7 till 10, so if you're to London play, please do. Yeah, that's what we do. It's brilliant. I still sniggle when I have to tell people my job.
How do you monetize that? Is it just through the page or stuff?
There's the paper stuff with corporate clients, and also some of the public events are sort of an arts funding model, so we get support from the venues, for example, and developing work with other artists.
No way to reach that.
The sandpits are about half free and about half ticketed at around £4 or something. So the ones that are ticketed, you're guaranteed spaces in 3 games which you can pick when you turn up. The ones that are unticketed, it's a bit more free for all.
Have you incorporated any kind of online elements of the games, like Twitter or Facebook?
Yeah, we had Twitter, for example. We had a sandpit at the BFI in early May, which was part of their Bond weekender. So it was a James Bond themed sandpit. And there was a game that's completely unpronounceable. It's called Quantum of Solace without any of the vowels. And that was sort of a Twitter-based game where people would sign up and they would get missions from Barbara Worsley, which is the name is given to M in some versions, and would have to carry out those missions and then report back and get more and interact with other players and with characters from the books and the movies through Twitter. And sort of set them around the South Bank and exploring weird different bits of the South Bank that we didn't know were there, the Mediatheque and the BFI and the Poetry Library and the bigger South Bank Centre and that sort of thing. Oh, the other thing that I should possibly mention is that the rule sets to a lot of the games, especially the sort of smaller scale ones, are available online under a attribution non-commercial license on a wiki, which we do run. It's not specifically for hide and seek games. It's for any sort of pervasive games, but it's a bit hard work to persuade designers to bother writing up their games. So it can affect a lot of the desire stuff. So if you want to try running any of them yourself, you can look on Velocity and get the rule sets. Journey to the End of the Night by SF0 for a San Francisco group. It's pretty good. I'm a bit nervous of the idea of running it myself just because of the whole people get run over issue, but it's really, really great. They don't actually get run over, I'm just afraid it would happen. As far as I'm aware, nobody has been run over playing Journey to the End of the Night.
Any more questions?
Okay, great, thanks.